Welcome back to my heartstrings, everybody. Welcome back to our channel and welcome back to our tribe, guys. Welcome all of my new subscribers. I want to welcome you all to our channel and to our tribe. Yes, guys, I haven't done content since Friday, but what have I been up to? Guys, I have found myself in a season of unshakable, unbreakable faith. And I really kept asking, so I know I'm a sudden cardiac arrest survivor, but there's got to be more than just what's on the surface to this unbreakable, unshakable faith. And yes, I've been using the journals like I showed in my last video. Look at this. I've been using the journals and the stickers. And yesterday was Proverbs. I did a Bible study on laziness. Not sure why I did that, but today I went back to the faith and living by faith. And I was like, I need some Bible verses on faith and having this unshakable faith, living in faith. And I opened my Bible, and I wish I was making this up, but I ain't. This is the truth. I already had one of your bookmarks in there, and I opened it, and it literally opened up to Hebrews chapter 11. And so what did I do? I literally started reading the entire chapter 11 of Hebrews. Now, faith is the reality of what is hoped for, the proof of what is not seen. For by this our ancestors were approved. By faith, we understand that the universe was created by the Word of God, so that what is seen was made from things that are not visible. I read that whole chapter, and I've been really there's more to it than just this cardiac arrest. And finally, I think it was Saturday night, I think, is when it clicked. This is my entire life, not just the sudden cardiac arrest, my entire life. God had all of this planned out, and I'm going to tell you the story. So, I would not recommend this for small children, preteens. This is going to be your judgment. Now, teenagers 16 and up, fine. I think this would be good for them. But there's parts of this that are pretty powerful and out there. So, but yeah, I was shown. This has gone back my entire life, and it led me to go back to the beginning of my life and look at it from birth. And I was shown that God has been preparing this whole thing my entire life. So with that, let's get started. So from the time I was born, I was always very sick. And I mean a very sick child. At an early age, I was diagnosed with severe allergies. I am allergic to everything outside. Bring me indoors, I'm allergic to house dust. I was allergic to pet dander. I now have 4 cats, but we'll get into that. Anyway, I was allergic to cats deathly. And now I have 4. We'll get into that later. But after I was diagnosed with horrible allergies, I was diagnosed with severe asthma. I had asthma so bad from a small age, guys. And when I got up, I was in late grade school, early middle school, I believe, I started the immunovaccines for my allergies, the allergy shots. And it was, oh my gosh, I did it for 3 years. I think it was 2 or 3 times a week for 3 years. Both of my arms were pin cushions. both of my legs became pincushions, and both of my backside cheeks became pincushions. It was horrible. And so I did that for 3.5 years. I never really saw a lot of improvement, and I can get more into that later if you want, but going forward, okay. Now I have severe allergies. I have severe asthma. I can remember when I was 10, my doctors told my mom and dad, you need to move her away from here, which was southern Louisiana. The humidity was hell on earth. It was unlivable. It was horrible. Move her to where there is less humidity or she may die. This is what my doctors told my parents. So my mom and dad, we sold our house and they moved me back to Arkansas. With that, allergies really were bad. There's so much blooming there. And still had asthma. It didn't really get a whole lot better. I was still having problems. And then I want to say at the age of 15, I was in class at school. I had my very first experience with IBSD. Yes, I literally now had IBSD, and it was horrible. So here I am, allergies, asthma, and now I have IBSD. Age 16, I'm in high school. I remember this vividly. I was in my Spanish class, and I had my first experience with a migraine. So now I've got allergies, asthma, IBSD, allergies, asthma, IBSD, and migraines. And so as time goes on, it just gets worse as it does. And so I dropped out of school at 18. I didn't even do my senior year. I got married. And we moved around a lot because my ex at the time was my husband, but my ex was in the military. We moved to Indianapolis, and then he got a job, his first pay job, and we moved to a suburb of Detroit. And this is when I started to get unrelenting upper respiratory infections and bronchitis constantly. Like every 2 or 3 months, I was at the doctor with upper respiratory infection, bronchitis, and it was also during this time that I started having unrecognizable like heart palpitations a little bit. And I went to the doctor. Oh, you have a tiny heart murmur. Did you know that? I said, no one's ever told me this. It doesn't seem serious or anything, but everything else seems fine. Okay, fine. They don't give me nothing for it. And so then after that, I started having fertility issues. We wanted to have children. Wasn't happening. They run all the tests, nothing. They can't find anything. Are you doing it right? And finally, they just said, we just seem to think that you will never be able to get pregnant, which at about the 6-year mark of living there, I got pregnant. I didn't know it because at the 6.5-year mark, I was unknowingly pregnant, and we moved to Texas. I had enough of Michigan weather, and my ex got not yet. We moved to Texas, and that's when I found out I was pregnant with my son. So here I am. I have things like respiratory infections, IBSD, allergies, asthma, and I'm just suffering, and I'm pregnant. And so I give birth to my son, and I really started having really, really, really bad migraines and IBSD. So bad after my son was born, the migraines and the IBSD. And then my ex became abusive. So now I have allergies, asthma, migraines, IBSD, allergies, asthma, migraines, IBSD. And then my ex becomes abusive. Now I'm in a very, very abusive marriage. And sometime during this, I started to have a stiff neck and stiff shoulders, and I couldn't hardly move my neck. And I started having pain all over my body. It hurt so bad, and like it kept getting worse. And then I couldn't lift my head up. And I went to the doctor. Oh, you have arthritis. None of the medicines worked. I kept asking for painkillers. And finally, I was screaming, there's something wrong. I can't move. By this time, I cannot lift my head. I'm walking with a cane. I can barely stand up. My muscles get weak within like 5 or 6 minutes of even stirring something or reading a book, and my hands and arms have no strength. And so I go to my primary care physician, and he's like, I'm going to give you this referral. She isn't taking any patients, but she agreed to take you. She's a rheumatologist. And he said, I think you might have fibromyalgia. So sure enough, I go to this doctor. She says, you're one of the worst cases and one of the youngest cases I've ever seen with a fibromyalgia diagnosis. And she gave me a big, huge binder. Also, before I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I was diagnosed with clinical depression. So we've now got allergies, asthma, migraines, IBSD, clinical depression, and fibromyalgia, and I'm in an abusive marriage. Anyway, so she gives me this big binder, and she says, you have to follow this to a T. It's going to take many, many years of following this for you to feel even a little bit better. And some people never recover. And I know we've all heard that there's no cure for fibromyalgia. Anyway, so here we are. We're at this point, and my ex-husband is abusive. I'm going to skip to about August of 2002. Because this is one of the slight turning points in my life. I finally left my ex in August of 2002. That first year, all I did was sleep. I was feeling a little bit better. I was swimming, exercising. I worked 2 jobs. And I felt really good. And I think most of it was psychological because I knew I could sleep. I wasn't have to worry about abuse, anyone bothering me, anyone hurting me. It was the most amazing feeling ever. And then year 2 is when I started to abuse myself. I started smoking and drinking and doing bad things. Shame on me, because everything came back with a vengeance. So in 2003, I'm drinking, I'm smoking, and I'm not taking real good care of myself. And so let's scoot on forward to 2005. I meet my current husband, amazing man, by the way, and I quit smoking in like 2009, maybe 2008, 2009. It's kind of hard to remember. I'm going to say 2010. I quit smoking in 2010, and he finally quit smoking in about 2013. But for some reason, that's when I started having problems again with the respiratory infections. And this is after I quit smoking. Respiratory infections every 3 or 4 months, plagued with IBS-D, migraines. I must have went to the emergency room with migraines like 3 or 4 times. I had a migraine once for almost 2 weeks, and it was due to stress related to my job. Horrible. I had a mental break. Everything just, I could not catch a break at all. And so in 2000, let's go to 2016, I realized there's got to be more to life. There's more to life. I know it's out there. And I started practicing mindfulness, where you're just very present in the present moment. And that's when I did the keto diet for the first time. And I started feeling better. I mean, I still got sick. I still had migraines. I still had respiratory infections, and I still had the IBS. I still had issues, but they weren't as bad. And I was seeing kind of a light at the end of a tunnel there. And then let's go to 2020, where we had the everybody stay at home sickness. I think we did get it maybe once. I think we had it once, but between 2016 and 2020, I was still getting head colds, respiratory infections, migraines so bad, IBS-D really bad, and I felt like I couldn't catch a break. And the keto diet helped, but you cannot live on keto. You can't do it. It's not great to just live on keto. So 2020, at December of 2020, I got a job with my old company. I went back to work after staying at home, and I was working with my old company. Everything was going good until August of 2021. August or September, I started having shortness of breath, felt faint, and just like really tired, no energy, and it kept coming and going. Went to my primary care physician, and they misdiagnosed me. I will never go back. They said I had a respiratory infection, and I told them, look, I don't have sneezing, I don't have cough, I don't have a runny nose, my ears don't hurt. I said, I think I'm anemic. I think I might be really anemic. She goes, well, we really think you have a respiratory infection, take this. And another thing I've dealt with since, I forgot to put this in there, since 2023, severe anemia since about 2000, I've been dealing with anemia since 1993. Sorry, I have an anoxic brain injury, and since 1993, I started having anemia really bad. And here we are now. I've got anemia on top of everything else. Okay, so I go to this doctor in 2021, August, September of 2021. Oh, it's a respiratory infection. I told him, I think I'm severely anemic. We'll just take iron. And of course, the antibiotic made me worse. And finally, October 11th of 2021, I told my boss, I'm going to the hospital. Something is not right. I feel faint. My hands are all tingly and falling asleep. I can't catch my breath. He goes, okay, keep me updated. I actually came home, got my husband, and made him drive me to the hospital, y'all. So I knew deep down something big was going on, and I didn't know what. I go, they take me, they triaged me immediately. And they said, yes, you're anemic. Did you know your heart rate is dangerously low? I was like, no. They said, do you want to stay? I said, I'm here because I was afraid. Yes, I want to stay. Well, because I'm anemic, they immediately put me in the women's ward. I kind of felt uncomfortable, like that wasn't the right place, but that was where they had a bed, so that's where I went. And that night, this cardiologist comes in my room and he looks at my EKG and he's like, oh my goodness. He goes, you need a pacemaker and you need it now. I looked at him and I said, I'm in the women's ward. I'm anemic. No, ma'am. You need a pacemaker and you need it now. This doctor was on the phone calling, sending pictures, texting every heart doctor, every surgeon on the ward, everybody saying this needs to happen now. I remember looking up out of my hospital bed and I said, whatever you do not let me die in this hospital bed. And that's what I said. I looked up and I was like, whatever you do not let me die in this hospital bed. And of course, this doctor's looking at me like, I think he thought at first I was crazy, but kind of not because of the situation. So the last thing I remember was on the 12th. This is the last thing I remember. The 12th or the 13th, it's all muddled from there. I remember last thing I remember was getting iron and a blood transfusion. They said, we have to get your body back up, your hemocrits, your hemoglobin back up for surgery. I barely remember that. I vaguely remember her saying they were doing it so I could have surgery. So I was getting blood and I was getting iron. And that's the last thing I remember. I was told that my husband watched me go into cardiac arrest. He said he saw the anoxic breathing. I was foaming, shaking like a seizure. He got me help. He said the nurse jumped on me, ripped this cord that I immediately signaled everybody code blue. They all ran in. She did CPR while they wheeled me to, I believe, what they call a cath lab, where they did CPR, broke my ribs, and shocked the crap out of me. I don't know how many times because I was told I was dead for 12 minutes. Now, I was in a coma on a ventilator for 3 days. I woke up and I had a pacemaker. So sometime during all this, I had a pacemaker. I had a near-death experience where there was a battle for my soul. And I truly believe this was happening while they were doing CPR and shocking me, trying to bring me back. I was shown heaven, which had no beginning and no end, and I experienced hell. I was laying on my back in hell, but what was crazy was during my visits or my experiencing hell, somebody was holding my hand. I'm going to tell you, if they're shocking me and doing CPR, nobody's holding my hand in this world. It'll kill them. And so somebody's holding my left hand while I'm experiencing hell. And I'm shaking violently. It is the worst pain I've ever experienced. It was the loudest thing I've ever experienced. It was like a huge thunderstorm. It was like flashing, painful lights like lightning, loud thunderstorm sounds, screaming, immense loud screaming, and I'm in immense pain. I'm shaking so hard from the pain, and I reached my hand up and I screamed, "Get me out of this. I can't do this. I cannot survive." survive this. I can't get me out of this. And what happened was it kept taking me, showing me heaven, which was no beginning and no end from what I saw, and then experiencing hell. And it went back and forth, I think like 3 times. And then after that, the last thing I remember was coming out of my coma. So did I say anything? The first thing I remember saying after I came out of my coma was, what the hell happened? What the hell happened? What happened? Of course, I said, don't ask. Don't ask again. And when you are more awake, we will explain to you what happened. We will tell you. And they told me I now had a pacemaker to keep me alive because my heartbeat was too low. I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to use my hands and feed myself. I had to learn how to use my phone to make a phone call and text, let alone type anything. I had to learn to use my bowels again. I couldn't leave until I could take a bowel movement on my own. They offered me cardiac rehab. I refused. Not sure why I refused. I was just like, no, I don't want to go to cardiac rehab. But plus, I was there for 12 minutes. My brain wasn't forming or functioning quite right for quite a while. They did EKGs. What is it? The ECGs, the thing for your brain. They did the brain test, and they said we can't find we don't see any brain damage, but we're going to have to wait a few days to see how she recovers and how she reacts going forward. The thing for your brain, ECG, I think, for your brain, whatever. They put the stickies on your head. Anyway, and so they kept coming in trying to get me to walk. I could not stand up. I couldn't do it. And finally they were like, well, you need to go to cardiac rehab. You know, you've been through a lot. No, I ain't doing it. And finally they gave me a laxative. And they kept coming in and saying, you want to try now? Don't need to. Finally, the woman brings the bedpan in and says, you have to try. I tried, and all I'm going to say is, I filled that bedpan. I'm like, okay, do I get to go home now? And they're like, not until you can walk out of here with a walker. Yeah, they wheel you out in a wheelchair, but you had to learn to walk. And so they sent in a specialized physical therapist who travels and helps people with severe cases such as mine. And he goes, do you want to go home? Yeah, I want to go home. He goes, yep. Can you prove to me that you can walk out of here? Now, I will say this. Before he came, after they gave me that laxative, I had no option, and I literally shaking with that walker. I did go to the bathroom twice by myself, and they said, well, you have to do more than that before you can go home. So the specialized physical therapist said, if you can walk around the nurse's station to the end of the hall and back, use the restroom, and put yourself into bed, they will let you go home. But until you do that, they're not going to let you go home. And so I said, well, okay, let's do it. And he goes, are you sure you can do it? Yes. And I stood up and I realized the back of my nightgown was open. He goes, don't even sweat it. I got you. And so he goes, just hold on with both hands. I can do the rest. And so he grabbed my nightgown, held it shut, and held me up. And I'm pushing that walker. He had the door already open. We went out the door, and we went down around the nurse's station. We came around and back down towards the door. He goes, is there anywhere else that you want to go? And I saw a big window at the end of the hall, and I said, I want to go to the window. I want to look outside. I told him, I haven't seen outside since I got here. I haven't seen really the sunshine. He goes, okay, can you do it? I said, I'm going to show you. I'm going to do this. I want to go home. And so he grabbed a hold and held me up, and I'm pushing that walker. And I went all the way to the window, and we looked out. And I said, oh my gosh, it looks so, amazing. The sun is shining, and I can see the wind blowing. It was October, so it was kind of chilly and breezy. And I wanted to go home, especially since nothing, you just come out of a coma, and the only thing on TV is Halloween movies. So, yeah, I spent my nights, the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. I'd lay there and just stare at Halloween movies because there was nothing else on. And so, yeah, I went to the window, looked out, came back. He said, you got to do the bathroom yourself. I did all of it by myself. And then went to the bed, turned myself around, and put myself into the bed and set the walker to the side. He goes, that's great. He goes, do you think you're ready to go home? I said, I want to go home. I'm ready to go home. He goes, okay, are you still refusing cardiac rehab? And I did. I refused cardiac rehab. He goes, I'm going to recommend that you get to go home. And we talked about personal stuff for a while because he had seen so many people that were in my situation and worse. He was a great person. And I probably won't ever see him again. But thank you, rehab guy. Anyway, I came home, and the first 2 weeks my husband was with me. It was 12 weeks of at-home rehab. I was in a sling, couldn't do anything. He helped me. The first steps I took were out of the house was to the mailbox. And I did it. And that was with a cane. After week 2, I was using a cane. If you've ever seen the hurricane, I was using that. I went to the mailbox, checked the mail. I was in a sling, and I would walk up and down the sidewalk a little bit. Sometimes I would just stand in the driveway and walk around. And then by a month, the first 2 weeks my husband stayed with me. I think it was more like 3 weeks, but like after a month, he said, now we need to go out in public and see if you can walk. And I did it, and I got better. And at this point, I still hadn't fully recognized the impact that was taking place in my life. And my full recovery has taken 3 full years for me to recognize the full impact of everything from the beginning of my life to now, and I'm about to tell you why. In February of 2022, I went to work for LA Fitness. I was doing cardio. I was doing weight training. I learned everything, and I was healing. And that's when I started to realize I'm not having headaches. My body doesn't hurt. I did get a couple of colds and caught the flu while working at LA Fitness. But since then, I've hardly get sick. You guys, it took me till now to realize the full impact. I no longer have migraines. I no longer have asthma. I have 4 cats. I hardly ever use my inhaler. I haven't used it in over a year. I no longer have respiratory infections. I'm no longer anemic. I had IBSD. I don't have IBSD unless I knowingly eat something I know is bad for me or that I cannot tolerate, which is on me. If I eat healthy and follow the course, I do not have IBSD. So my allergies, I have them, but they're not miserable. I'm in check. Allergies in check. No asthma. No constant respiratory infections. No anemia. No migraines. IBSD is in check. And no fibromyalgia. I no longer have chronic pain. No clinical depression. I don't even remember the last time I had a headache. A headache. God had this plan in motion from day one. You cannot convince me otherwise. I was reborn on October 13th of 2021. Reborn. My life was saved by the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I can't think of anybody else that I know. And August of last year, I went for my cardiac visit with all my cardiac team. And they told me, your recovery now defies science. He said, today, your EKG shows happiness and joy in your heart. He said, your heart has healed 95% or better. He said, sometimes your pacemaker is not even doing 2% of the work. Your heart has healed and it's doing the work for you. Your recovery defies science. We can't explain your recovery. We don't know how. This is not supposed to be possible. I was dead 12 minutes. I should be not in here and not healed in here. If you did not believe before now, you should believe now. Because this is my life. This happened. I no longer have allergies. I no longer have asthma. I no longer have migraines. IBSD in check. I am healed. I am healed. And only God could heal in this manner. No more fibromyalgia. No more chronic pain. Y'all, if you didn't believe before, you should believe now. Share this video. If you like this, click the like button. Subscribe to my channel because I've got a video coming up. I'm going to show you another plan God was putting in motion with me doing it for years. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you because there is, I was going to show you guys. I'm going to hold on to this that I was going to tell you because it's going to blow your mind. It's really going to blow your mind. And I talked about it last week. It was one of my favorite verses. If you can remember that video, if you want to go back and watch it, because this is going to be part of the video where God put a plan into motion with me before my healing. Because when I show you this video, it's going to blow your mind. Anyway, guys, I hope you like this. And like I said, I'm doing another video on the plan that God put into motion with me, working with Him before my cardiac arrest, before all of this happened. He had all of this planned out. This was His plan for me all along, starting at birth. He did. He put me through all of this trauma, all of this suffering, to now completely healed of everything. A little CPTSD, a little dissociation, maladaptive, negative thought processes. I can live with that because I've been to therapy and God has healed me. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this video, and I've got more content on all of this coming real soon. Like I said, the one we're going to me planned something together, and I'm going to show you. And I'll probably see it tomorrow. This is what I've been working on, me, and he's showing me so many things. And I'm in, just right now, I am in unshakable, unbreakable faith, and you should be too. I love you guys all so much. And y'all have a blessed afternoon, and stay tuned and share this video. Share it, like and subscribe to my channel, and have a blessed Wednesday.